Hello, this is Cynic, and this is just, well, it's not really a Let's Play or anything, this is just me sitting down, playing Dark Souls casually. I've been meaning to do new videos, but I haven't really had either the time or the attention that I actually need to do anything more advanced than just basically recording and then throwing something out. But anyways, I'll talk about that a bit later. Now I'm going to choose which class I'm going to choose and, well, play in this game. Now the classes don't actually matter all that much. As you can see, the only real difference between most of them are the equipment they start with and the stats they have. Now I'm going with the warrior because it's an okay class to start out with if you're fairly new to the game. I have actually beaten this game before and played quite a bit, but I'm not the best player. That's why this is not a Let's Play or anything like that. This is just me digging around in a game. I might do this in I might do videos like this in other games, but for the most part I'm just going to stick with Dark Souls for now. I'll try to do as many as I can and upload as often as I can. I'm not going to put a specific schedule or anything like that. But yeah, I also need to choose my gift here. The master key is basically the one you'll be choosing in 90% of the time, because it doesn't really matter which one other than that you choose, because most of them aren't actually all that great. Black fire bombs actually can help you get a pretty decent weapon early on, but you won't be able to use it effectively for at least an hour or two. It really depends on how well you do, on how well you're doing up until that point. But yeah, you can kind of customize your characters. I chose a character that looks sort of like what I actually do in real life. Not because I have, yeah, that's not exactly what I was going at right there. But yeah, it's fairly ridiculous, some of these sliders. I'm not entirely sure they know what feminine looks like, but that wasn't quite it. But yeah, let's start the character with... let's start the game.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog.
I apologize for the lag.
Of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of Chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bullets peeled apart their stone skins. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath the Scaleless betrayed his age of fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers, and man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark side. Yes, indeed. The dark sign brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
And we finally begin the game. As you can see, we start in the Northern Undead Asylum, which seems to suggest there might actually be more than one asylum. I'm not entirely sure we've ever heard about any others, but there might actually be. I do actually like the lore and the story in this game, even if there seems to be a serious lack of it. There is actually quite a lot in this game. It's a really well-developed world, but the only way you're going to really hear about the lore and all that sort of thing is if you read the item descriptions and talk with the various NPCs you meet. But yeah, this is basically just a tutorial stage. Most of the signs you can see on the ground, like that, is messages left by the developers to kind of guide you through how to use some of your different abilities, your different moves, and how to actually play the game. And this introduction stage is actually a pretty good design overall. If you can get through this, you basically can get through some of the earlier parts of the game, but you'll need to improve to be able to get past later parts of the game. Yeah, I'm just kind of trying to get the camera to look at that guy, who we'll be saying hello to later on. In fact, fairly soon. He'll drop down into this room once we actually enter it. So we need to run out because we don't currently have a weapon we can actually beat him with. And go to this bonfire. Now, the bonfires are basically checkpoints. They're save points. Whenever you rest at one, you save at that location. You also restore your Estus flask, which we'll be getting later. And it also allows us to, if we get the items we need for it, reinforce our gear, and also repair and store our gear in what was the bottomless box. The one we saw, the one they showed us in the loading screen before. Now I am going to apologize for the loading screens and the lag and such, because my computer is not the best anymore. It's fairly old, so the game doesn't run optimally when I'm recording. It runs fairly well when I'm not, but yeah, I can't really get past it, do anything about it, so you'll just have to make do. Now, up the stairs, if you don't go to the left, to the right here, a giant ball will roll down and smash you. It'll smash through the wall regardless, but this way you don't take damage.
You're no hollow. Thank goodness. I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you. You and I are both undead. Hear me out, will you?
Sure.
Regrettably,
sure.
I have failed in my mission, but perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family: thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know. Well, now you know, and I can die with hope in my heart. Oh, one more thing. Here, take this. An Estus flask, an undead favorite. Oh, and this. Now I must bid farewell. I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
Yeah, that was basically a guy that threw the corpse down in our cell that allowed us to actually escape. I don't think he did it intentionally, he just kinda did it. And he dies, and we get 100 souls for it. We can kill him and skip that talking part, but I'm going to try to get as much of the dialogue with the NPCs as I can. But yeah, oh yeah, I completely forgot to mention that we actually got weapons and such. I was kind of focused on talking about other stuff, but yeah, we run up here and kill this guy. Now, if we didn't get the key, we wouldn't be able to get past this door, which makes sure... It's a way of developers making sure that we get the Estus flask, because they're fairly important to get in this game. If you don't, you lose your primary healing item. Just running over here to lure these guys out, so I don't have to deal with both of these and an archer. And they're dead. But yeah, it's fairly clever design actually. And this guy we're just going to backstab because that's easier. Now, occasionally these guys who use bows might actually drop their bow. I've seen it a couple of times with different characters, but I wasn't lucky this time around. Now, I chose to backstab this guy instead of riposting him, because due to the lag, I'm apparently really bad at riposting, parrying and stuff like that. I'm really bad at parrying, basically. But the lag doesn't help, so yeah. I actually need a new controller, because the controller I have right now has some delay. I think it's just because I've worn it out, basically. So I kind of need a new one. I'm planning on getting one this week. But yeah, here's the boss. Jump down, stab him in the face. Do almost half his health and damage. It's a good start, but we still need to take down the rest. And this guy is actually fair. He is pretty easy if you just hold back and actually look at him, make sure you judge what kind of attacks he's doing. I blocked there, which is why I didn't really take that much damage, but my stamina bar dropped down pretty low. If you block, your stamina will go down. If your stamina goes down to 0, you'll take damage regardless. There I didn't block, for example. I actually tried to dodge, but I'm not too good at dodging. I managed to do it there, and I should have done it there, because that's always a 3-stage attack, a 3-stage combo. So I really should have blocked, or at least dodged, instead of trying to do damage. There I didn't dodge, I dodged too late, basically, which meant that I didn't get away too fast. But yeah, it's basically running in, poking, then running away, trying to stay on his side or behind him, because that's the few places where he can't actually hit you. And it's a pretty good indication of how you beat most bosses in this game. If you stay on the sides, it's usually the best part. It's usually best to stay on the sides, because a lot of bosses tend to mix it up by having attacks with the backs, when they're backs to you. But yeah, I took damage there because I got greedy. I basically decided that, well, I can get another point of damage for him. He only needs one more hit, and I get it there. But I should have dodged instead of taking that blow, and it would have been a whole lot easier. And we get the big Pilgrim's Key, which is basically just a key to the outside here. And we also get 1 humanity. Another thing we get is 2,000 souls. Well, yeah, there we go. Which is enough to get us at least 2, maybe 3 levels. Which is really, it's really good early on. You basically need to increase your stats quite a bit. There's a couple of stats you need to increase, but yeah, I'll talk about that in a moment. We have more cutscenes.
In the ancient legends, it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords. Lordran.
And loading. Oh, wait. Usually loads there. Not sure why it didn't do it this time. But yeah, we get kind of an overhead view. And we get dropped off. Now those feathers just disappear, they're not on the ground. We can talk to this guy.
Well, what do we have here? You must be a new arrival. Let me guess. Fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first. But there's no salvation here. You'd have done better to rot in the undead asylum. But too late now. Well, since you're here, let me help you out. There are, actually, 2 bells of awakening. One's up above in the undead church. The other is far, far below, in the ruins at the base of Blight Town. Ring them both, and something happened. Brilliant, right? Not much to go on. But I have a feeling that won't stop you. So, off you go. It is why you came, isn't it? To this accursed land of the undead?
But yeah, this guy basically helps you out. He acts as an introduction to what you're supposed to do and stuff like that.
Hollow. But who knows? Going hollow could solve quite a bit.
So people who say you don't get any direction at all basically haven't been exploring the game. I know I'm talking over him here,
bit by bit,
but the information he gives is basically...
Or you can butter up a cleric and get yourself summoned. And the quickest way...
is basically just explaining some of the mechanics of the game, as well as where you need to go and what you should do. You don't have to follow it.
Human, after all.
Sorry, but it's best you do.
What are you looking at? Don't try anything clever. You might regret it.
Awesome voice.
What? You want to hear more? Oh, that's all we need. Another inquisitive soul. Well, listen carefully then. One of the bells is up above in the undead church, but the lift is broken. You'll have to climb the stairs up the ruins and access the undead burg through the waterway. The other bell is back down below the undead burg, within the plague-infested Blight Town. but I'd die again before I step foot in that cesspool. Bloody hell, what is it now? You ask too many questions. What now? I'm not up for chatting. Leave me alone.
And this line basically just tells he has no more to say right now. He'll have more stuff to say later, but it's how to find certain NPCs and stuff like that. I will be showing them off when we get to it. But right now I'm just going to go around the Firelink shrine and pick up all the items we can actually get here. There's some fire bombs here. It's a thrown item that deals fire damage. It does a decent chunk of damage, but not all that much. It's not really worth using in general. We get some spells and stuff later that are better.
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Firelink. Have you business with us? If not, I prefer to keep a distance, if possible.
I really hate this douchebag.
Hello there. I realize that I have requested that we retain our distance, but I also want you to know that it is not meant in ill will. Here, take this, as a token of peace. No, go ahead. It's for you.
Yeah, copper coin.
Oh my, you again. Oh, I know. How about this? I have to await my companions here anyway. So what if I were to teach you some miracles? Would that please you?
Sure.
Very well. Then first, a covenant with the gods.
You don't usually have to join this, but I'm doing it here anyways, just to show off his inventory.
Now let me share my miracles. Only their ultimate effectiveness will be determined by your efforts and your faith.
He has a couple of miracles. These are basically holy magic. We need faith to cast them, and I won't be going for a faith build. He also has talismans, which we need to actually cast the spells. I'll show this off later, how it works, and basically what most of these stats mean. But right now it's not really that important. We are going to stick mostly to melee weapons. And we can also learn a gesture. I'll show these off later.
My lady and her young knights. She is young, but burdened by an undead mission. We are her defenses, to keep her from harm. An undead mission? Regrettably, I cannot share that with you. But you are my pupil. Perhaps if you show your faith.
Nah, I'm not gonna
I'm afraid
give him
that may be difficult, for our missions are sacred. Come again. The effectiveness of the teachings depend upon your faith.
We'll learn about why they're here anyways. But yeah, when he says the effectiveness of these teachings depend on your faith, he actually means the faith stat. So it's kind of an indication that if you want to use miracles, you have to increase your faith, which is also a kind of subtle tutorial kind of thing. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people say that there's not really all that much of a tutorial, or you have no direction or anything like that. It's basically just that it's so subtle that most people don't notice it because they're used to being told outright what they need to do. And it's one of the reasons why I like this game. It's really subtle in a lot of ways. It has a lot of story, but you have to seek it out to actually be able to know what it is. But yeah, I'm just getting some items here that are usually hidden. Most new players tend to miss these if they don't explore a lot. And roll down here. Need to run up here. But yeah, there spawn some skeletons here. I'm going to show those later because I'm going to get all the items I can possibly get, just to give people a decent start. This is basically how I start the game every time. I go around collecting all these items. But yeah, about the subtlety in this game, a lot of things are subtle. As I mentioned, the tutorial, the story, also where you need to go and how you solve a lot of the areas. They're not really puzzles. They're more like you just have to navigate them properly. But yeah, this is actually a really nice place, by the way. If you actually stop and look around it, most of the environments in this game are really well done. Really look really good, and actually look like they fit into the setting. It's not really a high fantasy setting, but we will see sort of indications of that later on, especially in Anor Londo. Yeah, something like that. That place is really, it seems really high fantasy, which I don't really like, but I still like the look of it. But yeah, I like the earlier parts of the game here because they seem a lot more subtle. They seem a lot more just basic medieval fantasy rather than high fantasy. But yeah, if you run down here, you can go to a different area. This is one of the reasons why I took the master key, by the way. I'll show that off later. Just got kind of confused here. Not entirely sure what I wanted to do, but I figured I'd run down anyways. I was actually thinking about whether or not I should show the Firekeeper, but I'll show her later when we actually need to go to her. But yeah, if you go down here and then go in here, you can go to New Anor Londo. Or maybe it's just New Londo. I think it's New Londo. Which is also another example of how great the environments are in this game. If you look out over the horizon here, yeah, New Londo ruins. If you look over the on the blue area, basically all the stuff in the distance, it's really beautiful. I really like the environments in this game. I'm just taking a look at it here. You can see it's basically a ruin that's been what's it called? Flooded. But down here we also have our first merchant. Well, other than Petrus, but Petrus is kind of useless.
You haven't lost your head. And more importantly, you're free. How on earth? Well, I shouldn't pry. I'm Ricky of Vinheim. I was once an established smith, though. Look at me now.
He's reading a book.
Can you believe it?
Wonder what it is.
What is it? Have you? Oh no. Don't worry. I've no intention of escape. It's safe here. I can't bear the thought of going hollow out there. Although, I must admit, I've not much to occupy myself. How about this? I could forge your weapons, albeit with rather minimal tools. I'll show you what made me the best in Vinheim.
But yeah, he's our first blacksmith kind of guy. We can reinforce our weapons if you have titanite shards or armor, but right now we don't have any. We can also repair, but we will be able to get a kit later that allows us to do that at every bonfire. He also has 2 basic sorceries, which are okay, but I won't explain them in this game.
We're both cursed, undead, but what's there really to moan about? Goodbye then.
But yeah,
keep your head on out there. You really help break the monotony.
yeah, shut up already. But yeah, I won't be showing off sorceries, or at least not most of them. I'll be showing where you get a lot of them, but I won't actually get them myself, because I'm not going for sorcery build with this guy. I might go for a strength build, actually. Yeah, that seems like an okay way to do, an okay thing to do. But yeah, here we get the S-Talk, which is a really good early weapon, which is also why it's basically pointless no matter what weapon you choose, what class you choose in the beginning, because you can just go down, get the S-Talk, and you have a pretty decent weapon that should last you at least for most of the early game. But yeah, what I'm going to do now is something I don't really recommend you do unless you actually played the game quite a couple of times before. You basically run down here. This is a higher level place. I don't recommend actually being here until you absolutely need to. because there's no point to it anyways. But yeah, if you run down here and go to the right here, you can see the ghost there. Those are really nasty enemies. As you can see, it took down almost half my life in one hit. But if you run along here, over here, I actually needed to be sprinting here and not just waddling along. But then you use a homeward bone, and you should be able to return to the bonfire. The problem is they managed to hit me before I actually loaded. So yeah, that's not gonna go. I actually cut out me getting back my souls. When you die, you drop your souls, and they're left in a like green spot kind of thing, and you just have to go back there and pick it up and then run away, most likely. But I only did it in the beginning here because it's kind of useful. But yeah, because we got the Firekeeper soul, we can actually upgrade our Estus Flask to +1. Now, this is the Firekeeper. We can't, she can't tell us anything right now, but later on we might be able to restore her voice. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to do that quest line because it's kind of annoying. But what I'm doing now is that I'm actually running down into New Londo Ruins again. As you can see, I actually went down. And I need to call up the elevator again. Sorry. But yeah, I'm calling up the elevator again. Usually I'll just send the elevator back up before I move on to any areas. Kind of like what I'm going to do now, I think. I have no idea why it like that right there. But yeah, go down here, and then if you have the master key, this is what you need it for. One of the reasons everyone gets the master key is basically to go over here, and we can go through here. If we didn't have the master key, we wouldn't be able to go this way, but we get a decent soul item here. Now, if you go to the right over here, you actually go to Blighttown, but I'm not going to go there, at least not yet. Way too early. But if we go down here, instead, we'll see this big nasty thing over here. Now, this is a zombie dragon, basically an undead dragon. And it will wreck our shit. But if we don't disturb it, it won't actually attack us. As you can see when I actually get over here, there's two items right next to its head. If you go for those items, you'll wake it up. You don't even need to pick them up. As soon as you go into that area, you wake it up. And it'll attack you. You can pick up the items and just let yourself die, but seeing as I still have souls on me, I kind of want to wait with it. Because the items you get there, while decent, are not actually anything I'm going to use in this game, in this save. So I'm not going to get them. But yeah, now. But yeah, because I got sorry, cough there. But because I went down and got these souls, I actually have a decent amount of souls right now I can use for leveling up. Let's see, I went from 2,388 to... let's see. To 6,788. That's a lot of... that's a big difference, and I'm going to increase my endurance here and put 1 point in strength and dexterity. Endurance is increases your stamina, but also your equipment load. Both stats really important in this game. I'd recommend you get endurance to 40, but not straight away. Because you also need to increase your other stats, for example strength and dexterity. Now, what I'm testing here is basically to see if I'm doing a fast roll. If my equipment load is over, it's less than 25%. I do a fast roll, which is like this. But if it's over 25%, I do a normal medium roll, which is what I was doing before, which is not all that fast. It's kind of annoying. I usually play dex builds, so I'm used to having a lot more speed, and I'm used to doing fast rolls all the time. So I'm probably going to make some mistakes with dodging and blocking, because this character doesn't actually has quite a lot of weight on him. The warrior set is nice, but it weighs quite a lot. But what I'm basically doing here right now is actually picking up these items, dodging all the skeletons. I'm not going to try and fight them because that's suicide. I managed to get away there. I don't know how. But we get the binoculars here, which is an item that allows us to zoom in. Not by much, but by some at least. And they managed to kill me here. Now, the reason why I waited to do this until I spent all my souls is basically, now I can throw away those 510 souls. I don't need them. But yeah, now I can basically just run back to that graveyard and pick up the last item, because I actually forgot one. Or maybe I forgot two. No, I think I only forgot one. But if there's some stairs to the left of the graveyard. If you go down there, you go to the catacombs. A lot of people, by mistake, go down there first. And you really shouldn't, because it's really difficult. It's a really difficult place on early levels, unless you absolutely know what you're doing. But yeah, I missed the shield, so I went to pick that up. And I actually thought that I could escape and run up, but I got stuck on a ledge here, and they killed me. Now, the step bar you see there in the middle is the status effects. If it reaches all the way up, you get affected by that status. In this case, bleed. And bleed does, if you get hit by it, you lose half your health in damage. But yeah, the items you pick up here is the Carrier Shield, which is a better shield for most classes other than Knight and the Warrior, because those two already have a pretty decent shield. A quite heavy shield, but a decent shield nonetheless. You also pick up other items like this Zweihander, which is a great two-handed sword. It's pretty good if you're going for a strength build, but it's really too heavy for us to be using it right now. So I won't be using it right off the bat, but I might use it later. We also... This is just me showing off the S-Talk. It's actually a really good weapon. And I usually get it, but it's not always... I don't always use it. I mean, I have the longsword now, and that's much better. And this is the Morning Star. It basically has a bleeding effect if you hit. So you can cause bleeding on your enemies. And as I said, it'll do half their health in damage if you proc the bleed. So if you have items that, if you have weapons that cause bleed, you can actually do a lot of damage with it. But it doesn't work with it doesn't work with all enemies. I thought by using these souls I actually had enough for a level up, but I don't. It's only 800 and I need 1039. But yeah, that's the scaling. But I'm going to end the video around here. But yeah. This is the gestures. I'm just gonna bow. And that's it for now. Slash.